And now for something completely different. Well, not really. This is my Warlock beam. Warlock, I guess I would style him. He's an occultist arcanist. I had an old Warlock lying around that was going to be a lightning guy of all things. And I decided to repurpose him into my my Chaos Beam guy, which I call the Warlock Beam. So it's based around Albrecht's Aether Ray, predictably enough for me, and Tainted Power. And he's doing pretty well. He's definitely a little weaker than my other Arcanist, but he's doing pretty well. So first and foremost, I have Albrecht's Aether Ray. It's got maxed points, and I have it up to 21 with my plus skills, and I maxed out Disintegration. Now, I maxed out Disintegration because of its Vitality damage, because Vitality damage is sort of one of my two secondary damage types in this build. So I definitely want Disintegration as high as possible on this guy. Tainted Power does convert all of the Aether damage from here into Chaos damage. Obviously, the Aether damage I have from my equipment that's scattered around because some of it is Arcanist equipment is not added on this, but the Chaos damage I have on my gear is. So I have Fabric of Reality with, I believe it would be 6 points. Mental Alacrity has 6. Inner Focus has 6. 1 point in Arcane Will. 1 point in Electra's Flash Freeze. 1 point in the Mirror. 1 point in the Sphere. 1 point in Niskandra's. 1 point in Overload. All the standard 1 point wonders get their 1 points. On the Warlock, on the Occultist side of things, I have 1 point in Curse of Frailty and 1 point in Vulnerability. Vulnerability would be a candidate to max out if it had Chaos damage resistance dropped. I would have maxed it first, and let the other abilities stay low. But for now, it's going to be a 1-pointer. It's great to have the slow and that little extra bit of damage, but in the future, I will definitely consider vulnerability something to increase to cap. But I put a lot of points in second right because of the 105% chaos damage and 105% vitality damage I get out of having the ability turned on. Soleil's Witchfire on its own is sort of I mean, it does its job, but it's mostly second right I wanted to go for on this. I have Sigil of Consumption and Destruction, and Destruction's at 7, even though I have 1 point in it because I have +3 to all Warlocks, or all Occultist skills, and +3 to Destruction from my belt. Now I do have the Raven Familiar going on, the Summon Familiar, and I put 1 point in all 3 of its abilities because they aren't weak abilities, because he gives us a heal and he gives us bonus elemental damage, which does help the beam because it's still fire, and he has his own lightning strike. So he's going to be our little helper friend. And our little helper friend here is great for that heal. But I also have on my chest piece +1 to Summon Familiar, and that's why I decided ultimately to spend the 4 points to get him going. Otherwise, I'd just distribute those 4 points around my other abilities. So for gear, I have the Blackwood Wand and Spirit Weaver Circlet, and on this character, I don't mind the look as much because he is a Warlock after all, instead of like, you know, a techie sorcerer guy. So I don't actually mind having this look on him with these weapons, or with this weapon and this helmet. And this is what caused me to really want to level this guy up. The Occultist Ascended Vestment of the Fox, because it's chaos damage and elemental damage. I mean, Spirit and Cunning are good, and then the regen and casting speed. And then the +1 to Summon Familiar. I mean, there are probably better chess pieces out there. But this one really worked for him, being Warlock-oriented and whatnot. So that's what really caused me to want to build this guy up. Swamp Dweller leg guards are, for lack of a better, pants right now. The Chthonian Thread Slash, I think, is your best bet. Because of its good ability. It's just all around good abilities for you to have. I have a Mark of the False Gods as my metal. It's chaos damage, it's spirit, it's energy regen. +2 to second right is awesome. I'm not using possession. Probably never going to get to possession. But otherwise, all around solid metal to have. I threw a Black Tallow in it. Oh, I'll go over my components at the end, I guess. His Bloodhound Greaves are something I really want to switch out for something better. But right now, I just can't get something better. So it's like I'm resorting to using these for now. Not that they're bad. They'll get their job done of being boots with movement speed on them. His gloves are Spellbinder's grips, because, I mean, really, there isn't anything else to go with here. It's almost like they're the Chaos version of Inscribed Bracers. But the Warwari handguards would probably go good there as well. Mantle of the Weeping Eye is his shoulder, and his shoulder, it's actually a terrible combo for him to have, and it's definitely a candidate to be traded out for something probably crafted, because I don't actually know if there's a Chaos Epic shoulder guard, or shoulder piece of armor, I should say. But Mantle of the Weeping Eye is going to be in this slot for now. His offhand, and this is the other reason I wanted to go with this guy, because it was in my Sorcerer video previous, I mentioned that I'd done a lot of Warwari Spellweaver Codex crafting, and this is one of the ones that popped up. So it's a great offhand. Like, otherwise I would use Heretic's Tome, but having the free Doom Bolts and then a lot of... It's got Chaos, Vitality, and Elemental damage, and crit damage. It's just awesome to have this as his offhand. His jewelry, he has a Warp Shard for his necklace, with an Arcane Lens. He has a Warwari Void Seal, and a Warwari Void Seal. So he has two Warwari Void Seals as his rings, and then finally he has Haunt as his relic. And I really don't think there's any better relic still for an Aether Ray guy, even if it's the Chaos Ray. I mean, yeah, the Aether damage is lost, but it's +1 to all Arcanist skills and +2 to Albrecht's Aether Ray. So I mean, really, why would I ever pass that up? So that's the build and the items, and I will see you guys in the Steps of Torment. Okay, I lied. We're going to have to look at one more quick itemization thing first. My components. I'm using the Enchanted Flint in my weapon instead of Riftstone is the Chaos thing, because this gives me an aura, which does enhance my beam. Chest piece is Chains of Valerian for the Occultist, not the Arcanist, because it balances out the +3/+3 I get, which I do have +3/+3. I am almost considering trying to farm up those rings and amulet that give +1 to all skills as their 3-step bonus. I don't really think it'd be necessary though with his current gearing. It's just an idea I've been spitballing around. The component in his belt is a rigid shell, mostly to get his lightning resistance up, and it has physique and spirit, so yeah, it's nothing major. Black tallow in the amulet, similarly to how I have an Aether soul in my, metal in my metal for my regular Aether guy. Mark of the Traveler on the boots, unholy inscription that happened to roll chaos damage on the gloves, mutated scales in the shoulders, symbol of Soleil in the offhand, which is just an all-around great thing to have for a Chaos guy. And Soleil's Flame is actually a handy ability to have worked in with everything else. Arcane Lens on the Warp Shard because of the elemental damage and the skill energy cost reduction. Mark of Illusions on both rings, their elemental damage and energy regen. And then Dense Fur on the helmet. I don't have access to a lot of components, so I'm just using the Vitality damage to undead ones and the Vitality Chaos damage ones from the Rover camp. Yeah, I really don't have a lot unlocked on this guy. So now we'll go into the Steps of Torment. So here we are in the steps. So one of the things that happens with this guy is he has a lot of dots on top of having his beam. So he's actually got a lot going for him just beyond having an... Okay, where's the Deathbolt Archer? I think I killed him. Here, we had to come back and just kill all this stuff.
That skill's not ready.
Reflective is always rough to deal with. Yeah, that was a Deathbolt Archer in there, I think, and that's what caused me to take a lot of damage all at once. So like I was saying, this guy has a lot of dots, and they're very helpful for both taking care of enemies not directly in front of your beam, but also they're great for they're great for just weakening up the enemies that your beam touches. If only I were a little more used to using them. Because, yeah, if I were a little more used to it, I'd probably be able to do it a lot better. You know, I love this game sometimes. Of course, this means I'm going to have to stop and read both of these. Wow. Yeah, so you may just have noticed that dot just taking out everything, doing work. Sigil of Consumption is a really great ability. I mean, the Occultist just has really great abilities for supporting other abilities. The class is kind of rough to play when it's like a pure Arcanist, or I mean Occultist. I mean the Arcanist is rough to play when it's a pure Arcanist. So yeah, the Occultist is rough to play on its own, mostly because if you play it on its own, it's pretty much going to be like a poison guy. Because there's no like arcane missile that's an equivalent to Panetti's replicating missile, so you don't really get like a good you don't really get like a good sort of like mainline attack that's a chaos based attack. There is like Chaos Strike. I think there's even a Chaos Bullet Shot thing, but you got to use a component to get those, and that's, you know, I don't really consider that within the class as a thing. If that makes any sense to anyone out there. So you may notice my Doom Bolt is actually quite helpful, even though it's only a 5% chance to happen. Now the one thing I'm not crazy about right now is I don't have an aforementioned like cheap main attack. Like I mentioned, I pretty much am stuck with using the beam as my main attack. And I don't want to sound like it's a negative, because I say stuck with, like, oh, look at this terrible thing I'm stuck with. It's a very expensive ability. And I have something like 75 regen on this guy. And it's just it's still a very just expensive ability. Expensive, expensive, expensive. So this guy, more than my regular Aether guy, is gonna be huffing the energy potions. Because the other thing he doesn't really have is bombs. He doesn't have like giant AoEs like a standard Aether guy can have access to. You know, devastation, and if you're a sorcerer, you can have access to what do you call it? Canister bomb. My brain is like working at half power right now. So it's a pretty common thing for me to totally lose the plot on what I was talking about today. So this is also where these dots come in handy, because they'll help, oddly enough, make the beam less expensive, because they'll be doing some of your work for you. They'll be dealing damage, basically. So they'll be dealing damage like as a dot, as you would expect a dot to do. So they'll be able to like just take out enemies, so you can focus on things that aren't being hit by them with the beam. And you are going to see me use Soleil's Flame. That's Soleil's Flame. You're going to see me using that a lot too, because Soleil's... Okay, I'll take another one of those. Soleil's Flame is it's actually a really good ability to get off of an item. I really like Soleil's Flame. It reminds me of the Haunt ability that oh, that's a crossbow. Okay. It reminds me of the Haunt ability that this provides. That Haunt provides. The Haunt that Haunt provides. Yeah, I was specifically trying to get behind all those guys to get to the Death Bolters. Ooh, a Black Grimoire. I think that would actually be an option if you were going with a more pet-based build, because I mentioned in my previous... I have Rampage, right? I do. I mentioned in my previous video on all of the Aether Arcanists, when I did the Warlock one, I mentioned that you can really get away... You can get away with a lot with the Warlock. You can be a pet guy. You can be just as pure a beamer as you want. You can even just... You can do what I'm doing, where you're kind of mixing in the dots and vitality damage. There are a lot of options to go with when you're a Warlock. The only thing I don't like about it is I've mentioned this. I don't have... I almost died there, jeez. I don't have, you know, Kalidor's Tempest or Devastation, so I'm really lacking AoEs. That was pretty intense. But I mean, that's fine because... Like, right there, because all the enemies are clustered together, Sigil of Consumption can just take them all down. And Sigil of Consumption and Vulnerability are a great combination. The Sigil actually looks... It hits a little bigger than it looks as well. This is the let's funnel all the enemies down in the hallway thing. Ooh, that's lots of glowy. That was fun. Why don't I get these drops on my normal guy? Jeez. We're on like Epic 3, and we get Blessed Steel and Restless Remains. Yeah, see, this is actually going really well. I think every video I've recorded this week, except for my hardcore stuff, obviously, I've died at least once during a recording in it, or at least part of the session. So it's like, oh, this is actually going pretty well. I haven't horribly died yet. One of the advantages the Warlock does provide is you do get to have some pretty like constant attacks in two places at once, because I can have my I'm just killing everything in this room, aren't I? One more. Oh no, oh, one more. It's like you can have your sigil of consumption in spot A and you can be in spot B. It's very handy to be able to do that, and I think with pets you could get it even closer to that. Almost out of energy. Yeah, like I mentioned, energy consumption is an issue here, but you get like this out of the deal, so it's not actually a bad thing. Oh, plus like Electra's Flash Freeze, because Second Right does deal fire damage, or no, because Sigil of Consumption and Devastation deal fire damage. You can Electra's Flash Freeze guys in that, and it's like boom, bang, boom. They have a huge weakness to fire, and they're just gone. Okay, we're going to take out Zarthazellan, and this should be it.
That skill's not ready.
And Zarthazellan's down. Pretty good, huh? Not to toot my own horn, but I mean, we've got another Aether guy that is not even optimized damage-wise that can take down Zarthazellan pretty quickly. Oh, he ruined it. No epics off him. So that about covers the Warlock Beam, Warlock, the Arcanist Occultist combination that uses the Aether Ray for chaos damage. I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone, and I'll see you guys next time for more Grim Dawn, or maybe, dare I say, a new game? Well, whatever it is, I'll see you guys then.